Hey folks, and a very good evening to all, and a very warm welcome to all. I can already see a very lively chat. So, we would like to have everyone comment in the chat hi, and again, also a very Shubha Novoborsho to all. Yes, and as you all know, that today's event is about Hack for Bengal. So those who are maybe new or they're coming back again. So if you don't know what is about Hack for Bengal, so Hack for Bengal is a 36-hour long offline hackathon which is going to take place from 20 to 30. So I would like to know how many of you have maybe already applied and how many of you have already been registered or maybe have approved. I would like to see the chat room filled with your comments. Okay, so we would like to have some comments coming up about who all have been approved or who are looking for some approval, and maybe how many of you have just already registered. So if you haven't followed Hack for Bengal yet, or maybe Shardeum, you can see that there are the links like Hack for Bengal from Twitter, @Hack for Bengal from Insta. So there's someone named New Place. He has already mentioned that he has been already approved. So a very congratulations to all. So how many of you have already approved? Do mention in the comments, and I may give you a little shout out right now. And yes, make sure to follow us on our Twitter. You will get all the latest updates out there. Yes. Sir, what is about you? How are you celebrating the Novoborsho today? Any special thing you are doing today? Sandeepan sir.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think this is the one. Not anything special. I'm not in Kolkata, unfortunately, right now.
Oh,
So I'm not
okay.
celebrating Navavarsh. Yeah.
Do you miss the celebration?
Yeah, sure. Like I think we like the family used to go to like temple every Navavarsh. So yeah, I'm definitely missing that.
Okay. Would you like to share something more about Shardeum and its community right now to the audience?
Definitely. Hey, hi guys. This is Sandeepan. I'm a DevRel engineer here at Shardeum. So Shardeum is a layer one blockchain, and like in my presentation, I will definitely share in details and more about it. But yeah, it's a layer one blockchain. I think most of you have already heard about a blockchain. It's a decentralized, um, like application system in which you can build applications on top of it, and like it's instead of having it's storing it in a central AWS server or not, like it's permissionless and it's open for everyone to build applications on top of it. So yeah, we are definitely going to talk a little bit more about Shardium in my presentation, but yeah, that's the overall.
Okay, awesome, awesome. One little disclaimer to all. So, Hack for Bengal is really, really excited to announce that Shardeum has been sponsoring us for the event. So, make sure to come and join Hack for Bengal for the hackathon. And if you have already been approved or looking for the approval, so no worries, we will share you with the updates soon. So, first, I would like to welcome you all at our today's event. So, as you can see on the screen, so today's event is about building some scalable dApps on Shardium. And today we have with us a very renowned speaker and a very enthusiastic speaker with us, who is none other than Mr. Sandipan Kundu, who is a developer relations engineer at Shardium. Please give a huge round of applause for them, and make sure you have your coffees and laptops ready with you with the exciting session starting. Sir, you can take on the stage then. Thank you.
And thanks a lot for the introduction. I won't call myself renowned, but thanks a lot for the introduction. Hey, hi everyone. As I introduced, I'm Sandipan, and today we are going to do a little bit deep dive into decentralized application and what we are building here at Shardium. Let me just quickly share my screen. Hopefully, yeah. Let's do entire window. I don't see any harm doing that. Yeah. I hope my presentation is visible. Please let me know if it is. Is it visible? Let me just quickly check the comments. Cool. Yep. So let's get dive into it. So into this session, we're going to talk on how you can start building a scalable, decentralized applications on top of Shardeum. As I already said, I already mentioned that Shardeum is a layer one blockchain, and basically, in blockchains, you can build decentralized applications, which I mentioned, like which are not instead of being stored in a centralized server or something, it's broken down and stored in a decentralized layer in which people all over the world can run nodes, and using that you use the compute power for them, and in exchange you pay gas fees for that. So yeah, let's initially discuss what the initial problem is. um, Existing blockchains don't scale. Let's understand this problem, why I'm telling that. For those who are new to the blockchain ecosystem, this is a very, like, this entire presentation is going to be relatively new, and you probably won't relate to all the problems and the solutions, but like you can always do more research on top of it. And like, it's definitely a, I would say in 2023, it's a skill you should definitely consider learning, as it's highly in demand. So initially what happens is blockchain is a relatively new technology, and you can see like there are an x-axis and a y-axis. On the x-axis we have the demand, and on y we have ux. Basically what happens when the demand is low, when there are less number of people using a particular blockchain, like for example, most of the one of the most popular blockchain you probably must have heard of is ethereum. When the demand is low, the user experience is good. Why I'm saying the user experience is good, in blockchain there is a concept that for transactions, for making transactions on top of it, since you're not paying any particular vendor like aws or microsoft azure to compute, to for the compute process, like you basically need to pay gas fees for the miners or validators. That terminology might depend on whether what kind of blockchain you're talking about. You pay them to include your transaction into the blockchain. Basically they are doing the work for you, so you pay a fees for them. So initially when the demand is low, the user experience is good because the gas fees, which are with the fees you pay to for your compute, is less, and the transactions go through well. Like it goes through easily. Like if you like the moment you click on submit, the like the transaction happens. So that's the initial status. But as the demand grows, you will see the user experience starts growing, because people in this part, people are building applications on top of it. People are experimenting with new and new tech on top of it, and the user experience is getting better even though the demand is growing. But at a certain particular time you will see that the demand like still grows, because obviously the more people get into it, the more demand there will be. But the user experience at this point of time is now starting to drop. This is the time period in which you need to pay, for example, $50 for a transaction. So if you're like in a blockchain, you can do peer-to-peer transfers. And if you're sending someone $5, and if the transaction cost is itself $50, it doesn't make sense, right? So that's then this is the point of time where the user experience starts dropping. And because the existing blockchains are not able to scale according to the demand, people are migrating towards the decentralized tech stack more and more users are coming into it, but the tech stack is not able to hold that demand according to that demand, what the demand is in the market currently. So this is the problem that most of the blockchains in the current world have. And there are multiple like approaches on how they how they go to solve that problem. One is you can have one layer of blockchain, and then you can have a layer two which processes transactions. Like there's a whole new concept of that. But in case of in this presentation, I'm going to discuss on how we Shardium approaches this problem and aims to solve it, and how the Shardium blockchain is acting as a solution to this existing block, like the scalability issues, and we can go forward from there. So yeah, a little bit about Shardium. I think I already mentioned it's an EVM based layer one blockchain that's linearly scales with dynamic state sharding. Now there's a lot of terms used here, and I'm going to come and like we are going to discuss each of those terms in details in even in the next some of the next slides. But let's I'm going to assume that for the people who are watching this, many of you might be very new to blockchain. So I'm going to assume that and uh, carry this workshop. So EVM is Ethereum Virtual Machine. It's basically like the most popular blockchain in the world currently, Ethereum. It has a computation structure in which it has built a virtual machine. Yeah, like to run program, you need machines to run it, right? The people who will execute those layer of instructions. So this is the same as Ethereum, like because like other blockchains, new and upcoming blockchains tends to be EVM based because EVM the EVM based architecture has the most like biggest developer community, and it's also widely known, and the resources are great, and it's already been in the market for some while, so learning it will be relatively easier. And yeah, Shardeum is EVM based. So if you're an Ethereum developer or a layer 2 developer, like you can directly jump into Shardeum. And it's a layer 1, as I mentioned the concept, like you can have layers of blockchain. There's a L1 blockchain, and then L1 blockchain can be connected to L2 blockchains. But Shardeum is a layer 1 blockchain, the actual blockchain which processes all the transaction in itself without depending on a secondary blockchain, and it scales linearly. So if you see in this, like we saw this graph in the previous slide, now this is the graph of Shardium. Basically, Shardium achieves linear scalability from what we just mentioned. The more the demand grows, the UX starts dropping. But in case of Shardium, the more the number of nodes is, the transaction per second you will see keeps increasing. So this is a very key criteria in if you want to have a particular blockchain which can be used by millions and billions of people. TPS is transaction per second. So Shardiem has a linear scalability structure in which the more number of nodes it's present, the more number of TPS it gets. Again, like nodes is basically a blockchain is comprised of nodes which help in computing all the code, the program, the instructions you give it to it. So this is basically what Shardiem is achieving. And dynamic state sharding, we are going to talk a little bit more about it. So basically, as I mentioned, there are multiple approaches to this problem. Some go with linear, like layer twos. Some go with zk proofs, and in this case, Shardium is implementing dynamic state sharding. And yeah, we're going to understand this concept in some of the next slide. Then TPS per node. This is a feature of Shardium which I just mentioned, and decentralized and secure. Um, Being a sharded blockchain, decentralized, like we don't rely on other blockchains and other layers for our security, and also decentralization, because basically Shardium benefits from the fact the more number of node it is, the better the chain will perform. So it's in that term, it's decentralized much more than having a blockchain with only 100 nodes or having a blockchain with only 200 nodes. And yeah, let's now discuss quickly on dynamic state sharding. So this is a very let's discuss initially on what sharding is. Basically, see it as in metro. When you go to metro and when you're entering the metro station, if there is only one counter to swipe your card, only one person can enter the metro station at a particular time. But basically, what a sharded blockchain is, instead of having one counter to compute all the transaction, and instead of having one counter for the people to enter, a sharded blockchain has 10 different counters in the same line, so that at each particular second you can have 10 different people entering into the station. So that's the benefit of sharding. And sharding is basically a computer science concept in which you take a network or a data structure, like it's not something web3 related, it's even like a web2, like even large database systems implement sharding to store data. It's basically taking a large chunk of computation or data and breaking up it into pieces. And in case of sharding, in case of Shardium, we like the core technology is dynamic state sharding, in which we are sharding each of the state, like the entire state of the blockchain, into different parts of it. Again, like can be very confusing if you are learning about or hearing blockchain or learning about blockchain for the first time. This is a little bit of, I would say, at least intermediate topic, but in this presentation we're just going to understand on how it's being implemented, because as a developer you don't really need to get into why it's like under the hood why it's happening, because you don't really need to know how AWS works. You just need to know how you can build a dApps on top of AWS. It's the same thing in blockchain. But yeah, we are just going to get an overview of understanding on how it's being implemented. So while you're developing your application, you know this, like why it's happening, what are the reasons behind of it happening. And yeah, if you see, there are in one table there are two columns, and one is of address and one is of balance. So you can, the 0x0a, if you have not seen, this is a wallet address. In blockchain, you interact with the blockchain with a wallet address. Everything goes from a wallet address, and you interact with smart contracts or with other wallets um, accordingly. And you can see that each of this wallet address has a balance, has a particular balance. And you can see that, like, let's consider each of this um, servers as a computer, and like as a node, and all of these node combined together becomes one shard. In the second slide, let's get here. Yeah, this is a better slide, I would say. In this slide, you can see that there are 7 groups. Each of these groups can be called a shard. Like, it's basically there is one blockchain. You can consider it as one blockchain. It's being divided into 7 different parts called shards. And each of these shards has 6 nodes. So there are 7 shards and 6 nodes. Each shard has 6 nodes. With what, but on how we are implementing dynamic state sharding is basically, in a generic blockchain, the entire state, basically all the data, all the addresses, all the smart contracts live on a same state. Like, they're cumulative in one single state. Imagine it like that. But in case of a sharded blockchain, it's divided, right, from what I just mentioned. But when you are interacting, like for example, you are a wallet address which is being tracked by this, and you want to interact with a smart contract which is in shard this one, and these are separate, as I just mentioned. And you must be asking, then how will my wallet address interact with this shard? It's basically, it's the concept of dynamic state sharding is basically dividing the network into dynamically different shards, so that each different shard has an overlap. Now you can see, like, this shard has 1, 2, and 3 wallet addresses being tracked. It doesn't track the entire list. In a other structure, like general blockchain structure, you will see the entire blockchain tracking everyone, but that's not efficient. In a sharded blockchain, you will see only one shard tracking 3 out of the 7 addresses. Then the different shard tracking 2 out of the 7 addresses. And cumulatively, they're still tracking all of these addresses. But yeah, like, it's being divided. So you are much more efficient. Instead of worrying about everyone, you're just worrying what you're given. And since the process is happening dynamically, so it's not fixed that this address will only live in this address. It's dynamic. It can change. It will change. So that is why, that is the whole concept of dynamic state sharding. Again, like, it can be a little bit confusing, and I will be sharing the docs too in the latest part of the presentation, and you can definitely please read through it. And you can be like, if you're hearing it for the first time, it's very difficult to understand it for the first time. So you definitely need to do a little bit reading after the workshop. And yeah, now the problem happens what I just mentioned. Your wallet address is this one, and for example, your smart contract is in this shard. How are they communicating? What Shardeum has implemented is atomic composability. In atomic composability, this is the life cycle of a transaction in Shardeum. If you see, this is a wallet, and basically it's a front-end application you're developing, and you're connecting your wallet with the front-end application, and you're interacting with it. What Shardeum does is, since the blockchain is again divided, and they need to know what are the shard a particular transaction needs to touch. What happens is, whenever you submit a transaction, go to submit or create a transaction on top of Shardeum, Shardeum generates a EIP 2930. It's basically an access list. Consider it in a way that it's an address, like address of your house. So if a letter comes into your if someone is sending you a letter, they need to provide that this is the address where this letter needs to go. So what this access list has is a list of addresses in which all the different this transaction will cover, because it's different. All the shards are different and they're separated. So this will contain that, okay, I need to interact with this guy and I need to interact with this guy, and we only need to interact with these 2 people. Leave everyone else. So this will have that instruction. That instruction will be submitted through a Shardeum RPC, which we will share. I will share when we go through the docs. And that RPC is basically responsible to share it across the network. So you can see this is a group of 3 shards, and then all of these shards together form the entire network. So this is how, because of this EIP 2930 automated access list feature, even though the blockchain is divided, the transactions, the data, we still know how to compute them. And this is basically the feature of atomic composability. Again, the terms in Web3 are very, very ambiguous and very complex, but the concepts are not, believe me, even though it may sound like it initially, but the more you read on top of it, like the more you will understand. But yeah, that's a very high level overview. Like these are very in-depth topics. I'm just going very like overview on top of it. Like even this dynamic state sharding is a very in-depth topic, and there are research papers on research papers written about it. And again, atomic composability is a very needed feature if you want um, all the applications built on top of a blockchain to freely interact with each other. But yeah, you can do more research on top of it. Everything is in the Shardeum docs. Then let's get to the next feature about Shardeum. It's auto scaling. What basically happens is what I mentioned. Like if you remember that graph of linear scalability, with the more number of nodes, there is more TPS. So this is the Shardeum blockchain, and this Shardeum blockchain is divided into active nodes and standby nodes. The black ones are active nodes, and the white are standby nodes. Basically, if the network needs 750 TPS, it will bring in 750 nodes, and the network will reach this TPS, and all the other validators will remain on standby node. Again, but for example, it's now there's a popular NFT minting happening in the blockchain, and many people are trying to mint it. It's the next hot topic, and everyone wants to get a piece of that, and it suddenly needs 1,000 TPS. So what happens is Shardeum in every 60 seconds, Shardeum in every 60 seconds is a cycle for Shardeum. In every cycle, the blockchain takes a network check. What's the network demand? And according to that, it can scale up or scale down. Now, you will see in 1,000 TPS, there are more active nodes and there are less standby nodes. So the state has changed from this to this. The blockchain is dynamically changing. It's auto scaling. This is the whole concept of auto scaling. Then again, the NFT minting is now over. Everyone like has left. They have gotten their NFT, and the network doesn't need any more TPS of such a high TPS. So it will again jump back to probably 750 TPS. So the network can scale according to the need. That's the basic overview of auto scaling. So yeah, those are the like primary, I would say, 3 features we discussed about Shardeum. Yeah, the reasons why developers are gravitating towards Shardeum is like the features. Like if you're a startup, or if you're a early stage developer and you're building your application, you don't want your application to be limited on an external product, like on the blockchain. You want, if 1 million people wants to use a product, they should be able to use your product. So that's the whole concept. Like the auto scaling feature, it's EVM based. If you are already aware with Ethereum and other solidity based blockchains, you will have no problem in migrating in Shardeum. So it's user friendly. Atomic composability and users, like that's the biggest, I think the biggest, like Shardeum is right now only in its testnet stage, and we already have one of the biggest testnet in the entire blockchain industry. So if you are building something on top of Shardeum, you can be assured of that there are multiple users waiting to use it. So and obviously, like Shardeum is native to India. Like I think we are one of the most active blockchain company in any of the events. Like we host multiple events every weekend, both for developers and for non-developers. So yeah, that is also one of the reasons developers are gravitating towards Shardeum, and you can consider too. So yeah, you can tap into the Shardeum community. I think a majority of the people working, like seeing this presentation, are from Kolkata. So we also have a very great community in Kolkata. So yeah, like you can jump into the community and learn more about blockchain. This is an industry I believe you want to join in 2023 out of all the industry, because there is just so much growth in it, and there's so much opportunities. Like everyone will benefit from that. So yeah, this was mainly me talking about what Shardium is and why, basically what is like overall structure of it, and why, what are the advantages and disadvantages. While building on top of anything, you should know why you are doing it. So that was the whole overview concept. But now we are going to learn on how you can do it. So let's just get deeper into. I hope my screen is visible. Cool. So this is the docs link of Shardium. I hope, like, if someone can drop it in the YouTube chat or something, that will be great. So, or you can directly open it on docs.shardium.org. This is your holy grail as a developer. For like, if you're a Shardium developer, you will find each and every concept I discussed in the quick start and introduction. You can go through each one of those. There's a small video about it on how it's being implemented. From what I just mentioned, it's a video of it with animations which can help you understand it in a more depth. So definitely jump into this part and go through all of it, the structure of it. But we need three things right now, because we are next, the next goal for us is to understand on how you can start building out applications on top of Shardium. So the number one thing is you need endpoints. If you remember in my presentation, in one of these slides, I mentioned there is an RPC. Like, RPC is basically responsible for submitting your transaction to the blockchain. So these are the RPC details which you need if you want to deploy your smart contracts on top of Shardim. Before we jump into that, because again, I'm assuming that all of you are newbies to Web3 and blockchain. So Shardim uses, because it's EVM compatible, you can use Solidity as a language. Yes, you need to learn a new language if you don't know Solidity. Um, to become a blockchain developer, I think this is one of the highest demanded skills. So, and if you're coming, it's an object oriented high level language, and if you're coming from C++ JavaScript background, you should have no worries in like learning it. It's not going to be that difficult. If you have any programming experience, learning this won't be a daunting task, and I definitely highly recommend it. Blockchain developers are one of the highest paid in the entire tech industry, so this is a skill which which will be very beneficial. um, Other than that, let's just, yeah, the endpoints. So for this workshop and for the hackathon period, I'm going to be recommending everyone building their application on Liberty 2.x for now. This is the much more stable network, although the latest network Sphinx 1.x, there are being some issues. So I want like you guys not to face any issues and scratch your heads because of network issues and thinking that it's your fault. So that's why, to be on the safe side, for this hackathon and for this workshop, we are going to run with Liberty 2.x. It's a test net. You don't need to pay in blockchain, as I mentioned, you need to pay a gas fees, but in tested you don't. Like, you can claim it from the faucet. Basically, you can go to the Discord channels or even the faucet websites, and you can claim testnet tokens for free. So yeah, and then we have the endpoints. These are the endpoint details, and that's it. I think these are the two most important part you need. Like, you need the testnet tokens. So is my MetaMask visible? I hope so. Yeah. So you need a MetaMask wallet to interact with the blockchain. And once you create a MetaMask wallet, you can claim from the testnet faucet, and you will have SHM in your wallet, test SHM. And once these steps you complete, then the next we can start is deploying a smart contract live onto the blockchain. So this is Remix. This is a online IDE, and for this example, let me just show with your basic ERC20 contract. So this is a smart contract structure for those who are seeing it for the first time. It's very, like, the structure can be very similar. You can call it to Java. It's has something sort of a class, like that structure. Inside that you have functions. Um, so yeah, we have an ERC20 contract which has a basic transfer function, approve function, and mint function and burn function. Let's just compile it. I already have the Shardium Sphinx details on my MetaMask wallet, but if you're doing it for the first time, you will have to do it. You can just click to connect Liberty 2.x, and it will get added to your MetaMask. And yeah, so once that is done, let's just deploy it. So if you see, when you start Remix, it will start in Remix VM, but you need to click on injected provider, and then you will see if you're connected to the Shardeum Liberty testnet, you will see custom 8081 network being shown here, and that means you're connected correctly, and you have done all the steps perfectly. And yeah, I'm just deploying the smart contract. The MetaMask pop-up came. I hope that's visible. And I just confirmed it, and just now we are waiting it to go live in the actual blockchain. We are just deploying a basic ERC20 contract. So you can see the creation of ERC20 is pending. And that's it. Like the transaction is already successful. So if we do that, if we go to activity, you can see contract deployment is live. And if we go and check it on a Block Explorer basically tells the transaction details. So you can see the status is success and the type is smart contract. So we just deployed a smart contract on a live testnet in a blockchain. So if this is for the first time for some of you, like this will be a very exciting part. Again, like if you're new into this world, first initially research on what blockchain is, why it's happening, like why it's needed, and then you can dive deep into the docs of Shardeum, and then you can understand about Shardeum. But yeah, some of the basics you need to definitely learn externally. So this is the contract we deployed. It's a name token, and the symbol is TKN. And yeah, that's basically it. The I just showed these are the simplest step on how you can start working on top of a live blockchain like Shardeum. And yeah, the number, let's recap a little bit. The first thing when you land to the docs is understand quick, go through quick start and introduction. The most important part is claiming your testnet SHM tokens, and then you need to connect to the network with the endpoints. And in our case, we will be using Liberty 2.x, and then you can start deploying your smart contracts using Remix or other platform. To be honest, Remix is just a basically introductory level IDE. If you want to, for example, in this hackathon, we have prizes on top of a Shardeum track. So basically what is required is you need to build smart contracts using Solidity, deploy it on Shardeum, and you need to build a front-end application which interacts with the smart contract. So blockchain only replaces the back-end part of your program. It doesn't replaces the front-end part. So you still need to create a front-end which can interact with your smart contract. So for something like that, you can like use something like a framework, offline framework like Hardhat or Truffle. If you're very beginner, I will encourage you to start with Truffle. But if you have some idea, and you have built on other blockchains, Hardhat is good in itself. But yeah, this is basically you need to install it locally on your VS Code, like or whichever IDE you use, and it's basically a framework. If we go to Hardhat, just quickly go to Hardhat. And if you go to hardhat.org/tutorial, they will like, this is a very brief on how you can set up your environment, your Hardhat project, and you can deploy it on a live network. And basically what, if you see, like once you have this deploy.js script, again, deployment scripts are written in JavaScript. So as a blockchain developer, you need to juggle between some of the languages. You write the contracts in Solidity, but you will need React for the front end. You will need JavaScript to interact, like make that connection using something like Ethers.js. So Ethers.js is a library which basically, for example, we just deployed the smart contract, right? So if you can see it's in the deployed contract section. And basically, let's just see. So we deployed it using our wallet address. So let's just see what's the balance of our wallet address. It's right now 0. But in the mint function, if I give 20 and if I click on mint and if I confirm the transaction, we are waiting for the transaction to confirm. Let's just meanwhile close this one. So transact to ERC20.mint is pending. Let's just wait for a couple of seconds. So basically, what we are doing is, while the transaction is happening, basically what we are doing is we are minting 20 tokens. The transaction is already confirmed. So we have minted 20 tokens using this ERC20 library. And if I click on balance of again for this wallet address, you will see that it's returning 20. So what's happening is behind the back, like Remix has built-in backend using which it's able to interact with the deployed smart contract. So that's the part you need to build it yourself in your projects, which you can do using ethers. Again, like this is a very new field. You need to juggle between a couple of docs, a couple of languages, and don't get overwhelmed. Like it's a very rewarding field. Like again, this is a skill which if you are learning it at 2023 is very, very valuable. So it's going to take a little bit of time, but yeah, like all you can use all these resources, and documentation are the best. Like I won't encourage you to go through tutorials. Go and read the documentation and you will learn much more than any tutorial. And yeah, I think that's basically it. I showed you on how you can deploy a smart contract using Remix on and using Hardhat. Use Hardhat preferably in your local environment when you're building applications. And that's basically an overview of what Shardeum is and how you can get started with Shardeum. Um, yeah, for this hackathon, we have bounties. I don't remember the bounties. It's in INR like 24,000 for the first prize. Or something. Like I'm sure the organizers have already announced it. So hopefully, like organizers, if you can drop down the tweet link, which has all the bounties listed, that will be very helpful. So yeah, get started with building your blockchain applications on top of Shardium. There are good bounties on top of it, and also like the ecosystem is very new, so you can potentially start companies out of your project if you're building something useful which adds value. So definitely encourage you onto building decentralized applications on top of Sharding. So yeah, I think that's basically it for me. Thanks.
So thank you so much, Sandipan sir. It was a very awesome session by you. So right now we have some feedbacks and some really great questions by the audiences for you, some from the chat and some while the registrations. So our first question is, how is Shardium changing the future of blockchain technology?
Yeah, so I think I just mentioned in the beginning of my presentation is existing blockchains, like every technology has a like initial stage in which it starts with. The internet didn't start with what it is currently in. It has went through a revolution. So blockchain being, I would say, what it's been 8, 9 years old. If you consider Bitcoin, some a little more years, but yeah, like if you consider computation on top of a blockchain, it's 8 years old, and the
Okay.
internet is 60 years old, probably no, not 60, 40, 50 years old probably from the time it was invented. So it's a very relatively new technology. So and like the initial blockchains came up with good solutions, but when like the transactions when the throughput was needed more, they were not able to scale. So that's where Shardium is coming in and taking that technology from that stage to forward, because we need more people on the blockchain network because we need to process more, and that's the I would say future of blockchain technology. Yeah.
Okay, so our next question is about can you share some few resources so that you can start some building some D apps and more?
Yeah, I think I went through the most important ones already. The first one is the Solidity documentation. It's a language you need to learn to build anything on top of any blockchain, like any EVM compatible blockchain, and specifically Shardium. So yeah, Solidity is the number one. Then the second one is you need to learn a library which can interact, connect your front end to your blockchain, like smart contract. So you need to learn Ethers.js or something like Web3.js. Again, I talked about it and I showed the document, website. So Ethers.js, and basically you can use any front end libraries you want. I see like a comment, and can we do with Next.js? So yeah, you can use Next.js, like React, Angular, Vue, all front end. Front end doesn't change for blockchain applications. If you're a front
Okay.
end developer, you can build that. So the only part is the back end part. So yeah, these are the most important resources, I would say.
Okay, and I think you've already mentioned it earlier in your session as well that what role does a smart contract plays in building scalable dApps on Shardeum?
Um, what role do smart contracts? So in blockchain, basically you need to block in a blockchain, code is law. Everything you write will be executed exactly according to that. And basically smart contracts are pieces of programs which run on top of the blockchain to execute the logic you want. At 25th of April, I want to send $20 to someone. You write that code, you make that logic, insert it to the blockchain, and at exactly the point you mentioned, that code will be executed, that transfer will happen. So that's the role of smart contracts.
Okay. And what are some best practices for developing scalable dApps on Shardeum?
um, there are a lot of best practices. Like I wouldn't if you're initially starting and building basic applications, I wouldn't like focus on best practices. Like it will be messy and it's fine. But otherwise, if you are a little bit intermediate to advanced, I would say keep track of your gas cost. Again, I mentioned in blockchain there are 5 different solutions for a particular problem, but the cost to run the solution for 5 different problems will be one problem can cost you 20 rupees, like one solution can cost you 20 rupees to execute, and one solution can cost you 2 lakh rupees to execute, based upon computation is very price oriented. So the
Okay.
more efficiently you write to solve the same problem, the more efficient your application will be in a monetary value. So yeah, you need to, like, in real world, in a actual mainnet, um, the developers make mistakes, and that can cost you heavily. So but yeah, again,
Yes.
we are talking about testnet, and this doesn't matter to you. So yeah.
And again, we have a very funny and question that like, it's like why Shardeum? So yes, do you have any answer for that? Like why Shardeum?
Yeah, I think in my presentation also I went through in detail of why. I think there's a slide reasons why
Yeah.
developers are migrating towards Shardium. I think the number one reason is, like, again, I can understand this as a hackathon like uh, participant, you may not care about that much, but if you're building something, you are like, I guess all of you are developers. If you're in this workshop, if you're building something, you want people, as many people as possible, to use it,
Correct.
and you don't want any limitation on external factors. Yeah, you're not able to build a particular feature based upon your end, you will be fine with that, but you will be
Yes.
very angry that my application is so good, but the thing I'm running on is so bad and so laggy and so expensive. So that's the solution Shardium comes in with.
Okay.
So cheap gas fees for your user, and smooth transactions. Yeah, but yeah, that's, I would say, that's the primary reason.
Like something very smooth and very cheap effective as well.
Yeah,
Okay. So final and last question, that is, can existing dApps be migrated to Shardium to improve the scalability?
definitely. If you have already if you have already built an Ethereum or a Polygon, or like any EVM compatible, if you have built any blockchain, that's why one of the features of Shardium is EVM compatibility. We just don't want new people to jump in. We want the existing power developers to also jump into our ecosystem and take advantage of it. So if you are built on Ethereum or Polygon or Binance or any other existing blockchains, like you can just deploy your smart contracts on Shardium, and you don't need to change a single line of code. So that's the benefit you will have.
Okay, okay. So first of all, thank you so much for the amazing session, and I hope audience doesn't have any more questions. We have mostly covered all of them. So thank you so much, and thank you so much, Shadiam, again for this awesome session. And next, a quick reminder to all. So Hack for Bengal is a 36-hour in-person hackathon which will be starting from 28 and it ends on 30th. So if you have already registered and waiting for your approval, no worries, have some patience. And if you have already approved, we are seeing you at that event. Thank you. Next. Next, a huge shout out to Shardeum as they are our bronze sponsor. So, if you have already participated in hackathon or if you are coming to Hack for Bengal, so a quick reminder to you and a very interesting fact that Shardeum is providing the first team with 24,000, second team with 60,000 rupees, and again there's a prize pool of 24,000 for the best projects built on Shardeum. So go for it and definitely build some amazing projects on Shardium to win the best prizes. Next, sorry to those who are looking for the registration. The registration is closed, but again, we have a good news. We are 2,000 plus registrations we received this year. It was a very overwhelming and amazing response from your side. So, a big thank you from the family of Hack for Bengal. And if you want to have some updates about what's happening or about the teams, the sponsors, the track prizes, again, the judges panel, you can make sure to go and visit the Hack for Bengal website or receive some latest updates about what's happening in the hackathon. Definitely go to Discord. And yes, if you're waiting for the approvals, wait till 16th April. We will be sending out all the approvals by then. And till then, keep following us on all our social media platforms. And if you are somebody lazy like me who is very lazy to visit some website or open a social media platform, so we have a very amazing app for you built by an awesome app team. So a huge shout out to the app team from Hack for Bengal who have built this amazing app for you. So make sure to scan the QR code in front of you right now and make sure to install it and so that you don't miss out with the latest updates. And quick feedback form if you have liked our session for today and if you have anything else to be written like what audio you're looking forward in the future, again some related questions to Shardem, so make sure to mention it in the feedback form. We'll try to improve on ourselves as well. So first of all, a big thank you to everyone who has joined us today. A very big thank you to Sandipan sir for taking out your time for taking the session as well. And guys, make sure to scan the QR code for the feedback. And that's it. Thank you so much, everyone. Bye bye. Take care. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye bye.